Guys, Ray from LIFePO4 and Boat. So last year, a few months after we got our new trawler boat called Vestri, I gave you a look at the boat's off-grid power system. Only had a couple months to kind of get things sorted out and installed. So I'm back this year because I have quite a few revisions to this power system. Last year I was using 3 AO lithium batteries for the lithium bank, and now that's been upgraded. And also, I upgraded, add a few more chargers to it and a little bit more solar. So let's go to the schematic, much like I did last year. I'll go through the schematic and then we'll have a look at it in the real world. So here we go. This is the new block diagram for this year's system. Now, take what I say with a grain of salt. I'm not a professional marine electronic or electrical engineer or anything, just a boat owner kind of do DIYing his own stuff. So do your research and check for yourself. This is just sort of illustration of what I'm doing with my boat. And if you see any flaws, please let me know. So this is basically the house 2 bank, which is a lithium battery bank. When I got the boat, it had a starter bank with 2 AGMs, and it also had a house bank to run all the house loads, like all your, your fridge and all your outlets, inverter, electronics, all that sort of thing on the boat, 12-volt DC loads. Um, so what I did is I wanted more power than it had. It had 6 golf cart batteries. So I decided to add lithium. So I wanted to kind of separate the 2 banks, and that's what I've done. I've left the way the boat was wired before alone and utilized there was a 2-way switch, battery switch in there. So I've kind of changed the wiring a bit. You can go back to last year to see how I did that. But I changed that over. And so this year I've upgraded the lithium capacity. You can see here there's 2 big Xantrex 240 amp hour lithium batteries. And I had installed and reviewed those in the RV during our winter season, and they performed fantastic, no problems there. Very good battery, quite expensive, but they're in a metal case. Um, they've passed all the certifications and stuff like that, the North American company. So kind of have a really good feeling about them in the boats. Very good battery safety wise. So those were lucky enough they fit into a cabinet where I had the other batteries. So they're not in the engine compartment and they're not exposed to the heat of the engine or anything. They're in our living area because lithium batteries don't vent gases or anything. So you can install them pretty well everywhere you want. So I have them kind of in below a closet that's kind of my electrical closet, kind of near the lower part of the boat, kind of down near the water line, so it stays quite cool down there. And they'll mate well with my Xantrex 2000-watt inverter charger, which also has a transfer switch. So when we got the boat, it had about a 13-year-old Xantrex that was kind of showing its age, and it also was a modified sine wave inverter in it. So I went in and we purchased this Xantrex pure sine wave inverter charger with transfer switch to replace it, and I kind of replaced it just the way it had been installed before. But now we have all Xantrex down there to work together. To power those batteries, I have a couple ways to charge them. So last year we had this 40 amp BougeRV charger running about 620 watts of solar panels. This year, I've also installed a 50 amp SRNE charger, and it's being fed by a new addition of 400-watt Renogy solar panel. It's a folding panel that I deploy, and I've done a video on that if you want to see that. I'll list all the videos on all these products in the description or on the blog post. And then we also last year had a BougeRV, they call it a Yuma SIGS panel, which is a very thin panel that I bungee on top of our bimini up on the fly bridge. And now I have 2 of those for 400 watts. So they're going down to the BougeRV solar charger. Then the 2 solar chargers go down. There's a 60 amp breaker here. And this year I've also installed bus bars. As when I installed these two batteries, I decided to take them up each to a bus bar rather than try to like they're basically parallel together, but rather than make it neat, tidy, and and for the best balancing, I used a bus bar. So the negative and positive of these batteries are not on the schematic here, but in reality, they're exactly the same length, negative and positive, so they will stay in balance, charging and discharging. So they go up to the bus bar, and the solar chargers come down to the bus bar here. So when it's a nice sunny day, we can get pretty good input from there. I've seen, up 700 watts out of 800 watts. It's never ideal because of, the atmosphere and the angle, and sometimes they're shaded. But I've been very happy with that system so far. Another new addition is this 30 amp DC to DC charger, also from SRNE company. And what it's doing is it is taking power from the lead acid side of things, and then it isolates the two battery banks, but it charges them with up to 30 amps. I can set the charge rate. But what I do for that is when we're underway, the engine alternator isn't charging my lithium, it's charging the lead acid battery bank. And when the lead acid battery bank is charged to a certain voltage, there's an automatic relay that also charges my starter batteries. So a lot of times, because I don't really use this battery bank much, because I have this battery bank, it stays pretty well fully charged. So I thought I'll install this DC to DC charger so that when we're motoring along, often 3, 4, 5 hours on a slow boat, I can use some of that power that's being generated from the alternator, and utilizing this kind of DC to DC charger, I can bring up to 30 amps into these batteries as well. Just another way of getting power into there. So these batteries are the main batteries that power my Xantrex inverter charger, and then the Xantrex goes out to a sub panel, and then all the boat's outlets are wired into that, so we can plug in anywhere in the boat, any AC items, and power it. There's also a refrigerator on that sub panel, and also I have wired in an engine light so I can have a nice bright light down in the engine compartment for that. And then shore power goes into that when we do plug in, or if I do carry a gas generator, and oftentimes if we're really low in power, I'll fire that up, and this charger will charge these batteries at up to 150 amps, either on shore or my generator. I can get about 100 amps off the generator. A couple other things on the schematic. You can see here there's a shunt, and what that's doing is the battery monitor I installed here is measuring current in and out of the batteries for me, voltage and amperage, so it can keep track of the percentage charge that's in the batteries. And it has its own LED display that I've mounted on my panel. Now, all these things, the batteries and the chargers, pretty well all of them have their own app that I can look at. But you got to open your phone and look at the app, which is, I kind of like to have the display so with a quick glance I can see what's going on with the system. The switches in here, the Xantrex inverter has an on-off switch so that I can work on it. And also there's a two-way switch here for the two different battery banks. So you can see right now it's switched to house 2, but I can switch it over to house 1, which is my lead acid golf cart bank if I wanted to run off it or charge it. But generally it gets charged by the alternator in the boat. And I do have a very small 15 amp Victron solar charger and a portable panel that I can hook up just to keep it topped up if I want to go charge it. Anyway, there's also a bunch of fusing going on. I have a separate fuse for each battery, 125 amps, and a 200 amp fuse for my inverter. Up here, there's a 60 amp breaker for these charge controllers. I won't be getting higher than 60 amps off of even in the best sun I can get. That I won't be going beyond that. So it's nice to have it as a switchable breaker. So if I want to work on anything, I can switch that off. I can unplug the solar panels here and I can switch that off and work on any of this stuff. The DC to DC charger, I have a 40 amp fuse on each side of it. And then as far as the gauges of cables, that varies, depending on the length they are and all sorts of stuff like that. But I find a handy line is from there's this website called boathowto.com, and they have a wire size calculator that's pretty good. You can see wire size mode and ampacity mode, and you can go in and put conductor size, and it'll tell you, what kind of amps it can handle. Or you can go to here and you can calculate. Say I have a cable run that's 30 feet and that's 10 amp load, and I'd need to use 10 amp gauge here. So I went in there, if I was calculating, say I wanted to calculate for that DC to DC charger at a 3-foot cable run, and max was going to be 30 amps, 12 volts, voltage drop 3%. Then the type of temperature rating, usually have cables that are 105. And so you can see I could use 14 gauge for that. But the fusing I have in there is for 40 amps. So we'll just change it there. I use 12 gauge. I think I used a 10 gauge cable on that. But anyway, you can play around with that. I'll leave a link to that in the description as well. So let's get to look at it in real life. Here we go. So I'm down in the V-berth section of the boat, and there's kind of a cabinet down there, and then this was kind of a hanging locker. We don't use it for clothes or anything, so I use it for electrical stuff and also for storage. The batteries are down here, and you can see there's the Xantrex inverter charger. Now that's the spot that the previous one had been installed in, so it was just easy for me to replicate that same spot because all the wiring was in place and professionally done. So that's where I installed that Xantrex. I have a video on that you can go back and watch if you're interested. And so I decided with my lithium bank to install it in this same compartment here. And you can see the two big 240 amp hour Xantrex that were in my RV. I just took them out of the RV and carried them up to the boat. And then I just screwed them into this this base that was already here, so that worked out good. They're not going anywhere. When the boat rocks, they don't move at all. And here's the wiring. You can see I've added a couple bus bars here, negative and positive bus bars, and then the batteries are in parallel to those bus bars. Like I had them in my RV, I brought the same wiring over. Because the RV is in storage now. I just put a kind of a placeholder battery in it, and it's actually disconnected when I'm not there. So kind of convenient that I can use these in both the RV and the boat. You can also see there's that 60 amp breaker for the solar charging that's coming in. And then up there is a Class T fuse for the inverter. So it's very close to the bus bar there as well, and there's a 150 amp terminal fuse on each of the battery terminals, all for safety. You can see there's some assorted other stuff there. There's the shunt, and then the battery monitor box. It broadcasts. I can use an app to see it as well, but it has its own display. Let me show you that. So it's wired through a data cable up here. You can see right now we're getting 24 amps off our solar panels, and then the voltage and then the percentage, we're at 70 something percent. And it also says 71 Fahrenheit. It has a temperature monitor, so I just taped that up there just so I can keep track of the temperature in here, make sure it doesn't get too hot. We don't run a whole lot of high powered loads in here. We don't have a microwave. Most of our loads are like Starlink, satellite dish, and we have internet internet router and our computers, chargers, and as an electric blanket, whatever we plug into outlets. But sometimes I like to plug in a power tool or something, so that's why I wanted to stay with a 2000 watt inverter. This cabinet here has sliding doors, so what I do is I just leave one of them kind of a little bit open so that it gets enough air flow through there. But I haven't had any issues with overheating or anything in here, just because like I say, it's down at the water level, and it sits in an ocean that sits at about 50 to 60 degrees, so it's fairly cool ocean, keeps everything cool down here. Over in the back there you can see the on-off switch for the turn the inverter off, battery disconnect switch, and then there's various cables coming in and out, because the main ground area for the boat is the engine, and then there's a bus bar down there with the older system, so the cables run back to that. All the grounds and stuff in a boat are common. They all kind of run back together. You can see the red positives going in and out. And then there's sort of some smaller wire there with a XT connector on it. That just comes down to here, and that's, like I said, that is for the little Victron I have, and all I do is I plug a panel into that, and it goes out through one of the portholes and outside when I want to utilize that. Anyway, that's basically the battery compartment. Now let's go up and I'll show you the chargers. So here we go. This is the SRNE charger. It's a 50 amp charger. It's also a DC to DC charger, but I'm not utilizing that mode at all. But it comes down here from 400 watts of solar into it, and then it goes out via, I think these are 6 gauge wires, and then they go down and hook into the batteries down there, and then also they hook into that 30 amp DC to DC charger. So this is the output of that. It's just hooked together with the battery lead, so it can go down to the battery. If you're wondering about this, I actually had to put a fan in this compartment, because when it's closed up it can get a little warm in here. I found these chargers were running a bit hot, so I actually took a fridge fan that I had in the RV, and I've repurposed it as a cooling fan for this cabinet. I'll have a video about that in a future video. And then there's also some extra wires here that are actually going to a dash cam that I've got on the front of the boat to record all the footage out of the front window of the boat. It's for future videos. As far as the DC to DC charger, how it connects to the lead acid system, if you open this compartment, you get to the boat's main power center in here. And wow, pretty complex. And I've cleaned that up a lot in the last months that I've owned the boat, slowly going through it. But anyway, it comes back through here, this white wire, and it goes through it gets a ground point up there, and then I have it wired over here and straight into the lead acid point where the battery switch is. There's just a 40 amp fuse right now. It's kind of an old car audio fuse. I kind of had to put some of this stuff together with what I had on hand, so I'll be upgrading some of this stuff to marine grade going forward. Just wanted to get it all working. Show you where the other 40 amp charge controller is. It's on the other side, and that's actually in the engine compartment, so I'm just going to lift the floor up and we'll get a look in there. There's the floor open, and you can see straight down there is where the original golf cart battery bank lives. It's 4 Trojan 6-volt golf cart batteries wired in a series parallel arrangement. So, like I say, I don't use them much, but if I ever do run down the lithium battery bank really badly, say we have a lot of cloud and rain, I can actually, at least I'll be able to switch over to that and have plenty of power to bring the anchor up and that sort of thing. Let's put this back here so I can get down there. There we go. myself down there and I can show you where the chargers are here. Yeah, so originally they had their solar cables coming down and had a Victron charger right here. I've moved it over there and put this BougeRV charger in its spot just because the cabling was all ready there for it. And then we've put in appropriate fusing and cables. So this can handle up to 40 amps. But with 400 watts going in, it usually only comes in around 20-25 amps. And it's also a totally sealed, kind of waterproof type controller, so I feel it was okay to have it in the engine bay. Anyway, that's the latest revision. Any improvements, I'll let you know. Any comments or questions, just let me know in the description or give me an email. Until next time, Ray from LIFePO4 and Boat. Cheers, everyone.